Hi and welcome. My name's Mai Idishita. I'm a senior in high school now, and I started this interview series. So, me and others like me who are interested in writing and potentially becoming published authors can learn more from writers. So today I'm here with Sarah Lau. She is the founder and editor-in-chief of her literary and arts magazine, X Post. So thank you so much, Sarah, for agreeing to meet with me today, and I'm very excited to hear what you have to share. Okay, so to start off, would you please tell me a bit about yourself and your magazine?
Yeah, so I'm Sarah. I'm an alum of Westminster. I graduated back in 2019. I'm currently a rising junior at Harvard. Um, and founded Expos back in the summer of 2020, I'd say. And it's mostly meant to be like an experimental literary magazine that's open to all sorts of genres, especially welcoming for like diverse and emerging writers. And yeah, so happy to be here and talk to you.
Great. My first question for you is when and how did you discover your passion for writing?
Yeah, I say it's actually like pretty late compared to a lot of other writers. I'd say it was honestly in like ninth grade. I was in Mr. Finswaite's English class, and I remember like there was this one unit on poetry, and I think like the project is you have to write like a couple poems. And it was the first time I had a teacher actually assign me writing poetry instead of just like reading and analyzing like Shakespearean sonnets or whatever. And I found that I actually really liked it. And I'd say that really started it. And after I'd say just going online and reading a lot of other contemporary poets, I kind of got hooked. I went to a lot of like summer programs where I met a lot of like writers my age, started submitting to magazines, really liked the adrenaline of, I don't know, seeing my work published. And that's probably like, my origin story of like writing.
And so, what inspired you to start your own magazine?
Yeah, I'd say there's not like one specific reason. It's more like I had a lot of time and I kind of felt like I built up the experience to start something on my own. So I worked on Evolutions back in high school. And then I also worked on a lot of other literary magazines. So I was like a social media intern at one, I was like a content intern at another one, and then also like a poetry editor at other places. So I felt like I had a pretty robust understanding of like everything that went on. In running like a magazine. I kind of wanted to like try starting my own and really like experience like the editing process since it's actually like quite helpful for improving your own writing.
So, what was like the editing, reviewing submissions to your magazine, like putting it together, that whole process? What is it like for you? And did you learn anything new?
Yeah, I'd say like the first thing that was unexpected was exactly how heavy on the logistics it was. So I'd say like we for every issue for we open submissions for like maybe a month or so, and we'd end up getting a couple hundred submissions just because we used to like market it a lot on Twitter and other like websites and that poets usually use or like to find where to submit that month and stuff like that. And at first, I think like for the first issue, we didn't have any sort of systems set up. It was me taking in submissions over email. And then I had like a big team of like editors and readers who would go through it, but I didn't really know how to like distribute it. So I would actually like just upload everything to a drive and then make a huge spreadsheet. And then people would comment on that spreadsheet. And it was like honestly workable, but it just got to the point where like the spreadsheet was like so big, it was like slowing down people's like computers. And we're like, okay, we need a new system. I like submittable right now is like the most common solution, but it's like you have to pay quite a bit every month to use the service. And at that point, we were still new and fresh, and I didn't want to do that. So we opted for a different thing called Duotrope. And it was like more of a like you pay as for however many submissions you get that month. So I thought that was more reasonable. But so that's the logistics part of it. And then other than that, like we try to make sure every piece gets like read over at least twice. So it goes through like a reader. Even if the reader says no to it, it will still go to an editor. And then if the editor says no to it, then two no's means like we're probably just going to reject that. Um, but if we get a yes, then we want pretty much like almost the entire team to read it if they have the time and get a unanimous sort of voting there, just in case, we had like too many yeses and we didn't want like a issue that was like 100 people. But yeah, that's like the general process. Usually we try to like
Oh,
respond decently quick, maybe like 1 or 2 months, something like that.
that sounds like a lot of work. So you said you had a big team. So I guess my question for you is, what was the process for for you to like recruit all those people and like get all that interest in your magazine? Because you said like hundreds of submissions. That's so crazy. And like, I guess like what did you find was the best way to connect with other writers, like specifically?
Yeah, so I say like at first I just had a lot of informal um messages, text messages with like other writers I already knew through a lot of like summer programs or etc. And I
Mm.
would just say like, hey, I'm interested in starting a magazine. I don't even know the name of it yet, but would you want to like edit for me? And a lot of people were interested. And so that's like one way I went about it. And then I did also like after we got like a whole social media presence set up, a website set up, just like open up staff applications there and just like sent it and posted it on like social media, etc. And waited a couple of like a week or two, got some people and read through like their responses, met with them, and it was just like it worked out pretty great. The one like problem was like because we were so like international, actually, like I didn't set a very like hard guideline on like you had to be in the US or anything. Like the time zones were really messed up. So I think our like first intro kickoff call like in Eastern time was at like 1 a.m. or something like that.
Oh,
But it
that's
was fun.
wait, but that's so cool that you have like editors from all over the world and like you were able to like connect to people, just not just in like the United States. I think that's so cool. Okay. My next question is, well, where do you find inspiration for your own personal writing?
Oh yeah. I mean that's like a hard question. Like you just kind of find it everywhere. I'd
Yeah.
say for me, most recently I've been writing a lot of ekphrastic stuff. So I've been looking a lot at like art and writing off of that. I feel like if I'm ever stuck in a rut and like can't think of anything, then I just look at art, pretty art, and then write about it. Um, Other than that, it's just I'd say I'm pretty much a very imagery focused poet. So if I think of an image, even if it's not in like a line form or like verbalized in words, then I'll probably write something off of that. Um, but yeah, and then other than that, just like reading other people's work.
That's so cool. So it sounds like, okay, so I looked at your magazine and it looks like you also interviewed like a bunch of authors and poets. So what was it like for you connecting with these like accomplished writers and hearing their stories?
Oh yeah, that was honestly like probably one of the most exciting parts of it. I think like starting like the magazine out, I wasn't sure if I wanted a blog, because I was like already having like published issues is a good bit of work. But I didn't want to like have it be rounded out. And I always did like reading interviews of other poets and stuff like that. Um, so it was like at first it's pretty nerve-wracking. I set up like another spreadsheet where I'd be like, these are some really cool people I want to like talk to. And then I would find, their websites, send them an email or contact them through a form or whatever. And then I would just like do nothing and then see the next day if I got any responses. And every time I got a response, I was like really, really honestly shocked that they would respond to me. But a lot of them are like super duper incredibly nice. Like Kaming Chang, I think she was one of the first people I reached out to. She was honestly like probably the writes like the nicest emails I've ever seen. I don't know how she does it. Like I don't
Oh,
even
wait,
know, but yeah.
that's so sweet. Um, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Another question I have for you is, so this whole experience of like running your own magazine, it was probably like hectic and you probably learned a lot of stuff. So how has it like been useful to you, like even now, now that it's on hiatus, does it continue to like, does your experience continue, like what you learned from it continue to be useful, like even in college?
Yeah, I'd say like, I mean, you honestly learn so much from it. One, just being like how to set up these sorts of like organizations that's like organized that will like be able to put something out on a deadline. Um, and then so I'd say like in terms of just like hardcore skills like that, that was definitely helpful. But then in terms of writing, I think like I definitely still think about a lot of the work we published and it still like influences my writing. I was like a lot of the stuff I published, like I had never really seen elsewhere. So I think like that's definitely left like a pretty like memorable impression on me. And then other than that, I'd say as I'm like now still writing and submitting to magazines, it's been really helpful to just have some perspective on like what an editor kind of thinks. Like, when you first start out and get like, I don't know, a lot of rejections, it can be pretty sad. But after like seeing like how hard it is to really decide between like um just a couple pieces that are like really close to getting into the issue, but then just like one for some reason it's just like slightly better vibes or whatever, you pick that one. So it's like a lot of stuff is pretty arbitrary and it's all just up to like your own taste. So that's helped out with just like my perspective on like submitting and like what it means to be like a professional writer.
Very cool. Finally, what's some advice you would give like high school students or even middle school students who are interested in like getting published in a literary magazine or like getting involved or even like starting their own, maybe.
Wow. Okay, middle school is so young. I can't even imagine that,
I
but
know, but
props to them. I'd say like a couple things. So you definitely should. This is something I learned, or like my poetry professor said last semester was like, as you're writing, you definitely should not be submitting it when it's still like really fresh. Just in case like you write something and then you like send in 5 poems and you see like an editor pick one, and then you immediately think, oh, this is how I should write from here on forwards. So you should definitely like wait a good bit of time until honestly like the poems are kind of stale and like you don't care that much about them before you submit them. And like that, it's not going to like influence your actual writing after that. Um, Also like I'd say definitely believe in your own work. I'd say another mentor I've had has said stuff like for some reason when you like read poems, like the intention or like, oh, how do I put it? I'd say like if you, the writer, does not believe in the image itself, then like no reader is actually going to believe it. So you have to have like it's not going to like come through and like people some are actually going to like understand it or I don't know, accept it at all. Like a lot of times I read poems that I don't understand it at all, but I can just tell it's like still very much focused and has a lot of intent and there's like something inside that I just need to figure out. But if you have like a lot of hesitation as yourself, then it just doesn't really work out. And I guess say like getting involved or like starting your own literary magazine, it's really not that hard. I think there's like a ton of magazines out there right now, and they're pretty much always in need of like labor. um, because reading like submissions is like takes a lot of time and there's so many. Starting your own, I'd say you should consider like this upfront, like everything you need to do right at the beginning. There is like a lot you need to set up, like a website, social media, all the like graphic design, all like it's like a lot of work actually just at the very beginning. And you need to make sure you can like actually stick through that to actually get to the submissions and then eventually to the issues you're publishing.
that was so helpful. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you. So thank you for chatting with me today. And to anyone who might be watching this, thank you.